Red's going to talk to you about mQlicker. In the university, we have a product called Metal, which some of you may have used, which allowed classroom polling. Now, while that's still available, it's no longer supported and is sort of likely to disappear at some stage. Now, we've recorded a session on lecture tools next door. That has a classroom voting thing happening as well. They're trialling that till June, so that might be something you want to have a look at. But one thing at the moment we do have access to, which is mQlicker, which is it's an online thing. So it's not we don't have any licenses to it. You access it through your browser. It's free, unlimited. So and fairly straightforward. So at the moment, this is another option in terms of looking at the classroom voting. Like I said, Metal's still around. If you've used Metal in the past, I don't know how much. It's certainly not supported if it breaks, but it's still around. Lecture tools might be worth looking at, but again, that's a trial. But at the moment, mQlicker is a nice, simple, easy thing to use. And I'll hand you over to Red, who's been having a play with it. Yep. And John Watson's going to have a go at it too soon, aren't you, John? Where is John?
Gonna take my notes.
All right. I believe I've got 25 minutes. Cameron, if you'll keep me in order, because my 6-month-old son managed to break my shock-proof, waterproof watch somehow.
Oh, and Axel knocks on the door.
All right. Cameron calls it mQlicker. The way I remember it is mQlicker. That'll be an image that'll burn itself into your brain, I'm sure, and now you'll always think of it as liquor. What do you expect to get from today's session of mQlicker? That's really the first question I have. Why don't you use a network-connected device? Go to mQlicker.com and you can give your response. The system will ask you for a session key. The session key, I believe, is 848333. And you will get some options. And it's not an exhaustive list of options. You might find 80% choose other.
How do you get into the session key? So if you go to mQlicker, so if you're having problems with that, so just type mQlicker. You having problems or you're ready?
I just got the screen, but I don't know where to go.
Okay, so let's see.
Let's try this one. You can also try respond.cc to get to the response page. So if you're having difficulty finding the link on mQlicker, just use respond.cc in your browser. Did you get into it? Yeah,
It does try to.
Has that helped you? Yeah. And just to go back, that session key is 848333.
Triple or double?
3, thank you. See, I'm not wearing glasses. All right. So now this gives you some insight about what you might go through if you use mQlicker in a classroom, right? You're going to have to take students through getting them into the website. Students may be using mobile devices, they may be using computers. I'm lucky enough to work in a room where all the students have... Is this meant to be on me?
That doesn't matter.
All right. I'm lucky enough to work in a lab where all the students have computers. And so I don't have an issue with students using different devices. You can use a QR code as well, and students are quite savvy and they know that they can shoot that code and it'll take them directly to the website where they can respond. There's a lot of formats for the response graphs, and one of the problems I have with using this software is in the environment, in the lecture environment, if you're using PowerPoint, you're switching between PowerPoint and the browser, and that's a bit clunky. So we will clunkily switch across to the browser, and I should.
Hey Rick, there's just a few issues just logging into mQlicker or
Yes.
mQlicker. It would just be our individual username and password, wouldn't it, as though we were logging in?
No, it's browser based. So if you're into the internet, you just get into respond.cc. You will get a window that pops up that says enter the session key. You type the session key in and you're in. There's no the authenticate you need in order to get access to the internet. But if you're using a private device, you don't use authenticate at all. Let's have a look at the results. So what happens is, I'll show you how to get into this a bit later. You get a result of, and you can make that graph a little bit bigger. And generally you have to expand it to be able to see the options. And we can see that 4 of you wanted to be entertained, and you're out of luck, I think. I'm not a very good entertainer, even though one of the criteria in our assessment tends to be entertainment. To find out about mQlicker, and you're seeing some of the disadvantages of the graph is if you have long MCQ responses, you don't get the whole thing here, and you have to go back to where the question is based so that you can see what the options are, or you keep your options short. It's an imperfect world. All right, and so here we have our different options to find out how it works, to find out if it works, and you hear about my experience. So I'm hoping that I can satisfy the second, third, and fourth response. And there's some people who had other ideas. What are the other points that you would like to know about mQlicker? It's at least 2 people.
Just messing with your mind, mate. Don't worry. Just messing with your mind.
There we go. So it's quite a nice, like all these kinds of interactive device mechanisms, it's quite a nice way to get an interaction with students. You can take them through the questions and the answers and suggest why certain answers might be better than others. So then I invariably have to return to the podium to get back to the to change across to PowerPoint, and that does create a bit of a hiccup in your presentation. You can embed the response in PowerPoint, and in that way things get a little bit smoother. What I tend to do is I will have the question in PowerPoint, so the students will see the options in PowerPoint. They'll just go in and enter their answer in mQlicker, and then I will switch across to the graph. But you can have the graph in PowerPoint, and the instructions are there, sorry.
Is that what you use, Greg? Henry?
Sorry?
Is that what you do?
I tend to just switch across between the graphs, because I'll allude to this later. I don't use it a lot. I found if you use it more than twice in an hour, students go, not this again, and your response rate just drops dramatically. So don't use it too much. Okay, what is mQlicker? If you go to the website, it tells you what it is, but basically it's what we've just practiced. It's a system for gathering response, and it's not restricted by passwords or sign-ins or anything. You just have to provide students a session key. You have to set up the question and then provide students a session key, and they can get in and answer the questions.
So does each question have its own session key?
You can have multiple questions in a session, and I think I've got an example that I'll show that to you. It gets a little bit harder to deal with all the graphs when you have multiple questions, but you can deal with them one after the other. And I do have some questions where I have 3 or 4 questions underneath one heading.
Yeah, I think my question relates to that. If you have the response in a graph format, can you save that and then move on to the next one?
Good question. All this stuff is online, and all my response. So every time I have multiple streams of the same class, and I open new sessions for each class, and then the stuff is saved automatically, and it's saved there. The responses are saved there until I delete them.
And you can export them into another.
I think exporting is hard. That's one of the problems you have. You can export it as a picture, but you don't get access to the data.
No.
And I suspect this is where they're going to say, okay, you can sign up and pay, and then you'll get access to these additional features. But at the moment, with it free, this is pretty much the functionality you have.
Did you decide the session code? So that
No, the session code is generated automatically, and mQlicker is the way I say it, right? mQlicker appears to be a little bit strange in that when you present the problem up on the screen, sometimes it'll have the session key up in the corner, which is great, the students can see it, and other times that session key won't appear, and I don't know why. There seems to be some functionality within the site. Yes?
Is there a limit to the number of responders that the system will take? Because I know Poll Everywhere you have a limit, I think it was 25 students could respond.
Oh, I don't know. I don't believe so. I have. I only have 78 students in my sessions, and I get a response of, I suppose, 50 at maximum, and haven't encountered that. And in the reading on the site, I haven't encountered that there's a limit. Yeah. We'll progress and see how to do it. Okay, so setting up a question, you need to create an account and log in. And I just use my Monash email account and create a password to log myself in. You get into the system. mQlicker looks like this. You'll see I've got a range of questions already set up, but the thing that pops up immediately is a quick start guide, which says to create a new interaction, click on the new interaction, and a new one. You'll get a new over here. Add a new question. So once you're in an interaction, then you get to add a new question, and then you get another tab here with another question. And I thought that was what I would do. So I have short-term memory loss. I prepared this last week and I've forgotten what I was going to do. Oh, demo. So what question would you like to set up? Anybody got a question? Yes, a multiple choice is a good start. The questions, by the way, are not restricted to multiple choice. You have different kinds of questions, just the same as in Moodle. You can have fill in the missing word, or free text. But I tend to stick with multiple choice because I don't want to give students the freedom to write nasty things by putting free text on it in the middle of a lecture when I'm running live. Does anybody have a quick burning question?
I was actually going to use it instead of calling the roll to get them electronically, tell me that they're here. So if I did that, can you save the file? Like if they key in their name and ID number?
I think so. You have access to the responses. In that way, you're taking away anonymity, I suppose.
Can I make a comment on that? At another university, when we've done that, they pick up, and after class 1, you'll get someone saying, "Oh, I'm not going to turn up to class. Can you key code in my name and ID?"
Okay.
So they'll get around it.
Can you upload into Moodle marks? Can you give bonus marks for answering the questions, for example?
No, because it's anonymous.
It's anonymous.
It's completely anonymous, right? So you don't know who's responded, which has its good side because then there's no restrictions on students going, "Oh, I don't want to appear to be an idiot." But on the negative side, you don't know who's answered what.
So there's no incentive for getting. How about just having answered? There's no way of linking it to Moodle.
No. So you'll know. Sometimes I know if a question is either difficult or students are bored, that my response rate will just do this. It'll go right down. And so you get some feedback in that you've got 10 students out of 70 answering it. So either means 60 are really struggling with the content, or that they've had enough of it.
You're running out of time.
I'm running out of time. See? Yeah. Okay. So we don't have a question. All right, let's get in here and we'll set up a new interaction. Oh yeah, by the way, you can close the graphs, and then once you've finished the session, at the top here you have keys to start and restart sessions. You just stop a session. Yep, and so then once you close it, the session key disappears, and when you open it again, you'll get a new session. Let me see, do I have... Yeah, you see here I've got my 2 sessions, and they're stored from from last semester. All right, so let's set up a new interaction. Double click, you get a new interaction, and it appeared underneath the duck story because that was where I was. You can set up a new folder as well. Double click on the new interaction. Over here it says empty interaction. We're in the empty interaction and we create a new question. We can give a name to the question, which is optional. We can have a multi-select, single entry, number entry, or text entry. And the instructions is, what is the question? So, and then you just type in your options. It's defaulting to 2 options. You just enter and it'll continue to add. And it'll continue to add options for you. And that's it. Somewhere up here, you do a save. Where is a good question?
Right up the top, next to new, 2 across.
Yeah.
Keep that to the right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then we can just go straight in immediately and start a new session. And here we have a new session, and it will tell you the session key. Has anyone spotted it? Session key, we're running. All right, and in theory we should have a session key, and as I said, sometimes the session key appears very easily and other times it doesn't, and that seems to be a slightly buggy thing. Normally what I do is, when I've set up a session, I do this in my office, and then I'll start the session, get the session key, add it to my lecture slides, and then pause the session. So I'll come up here and I'll pause the session, just as I did before you, and then I'll come back in the lecture, I'll start the session again, and I'll have the session key already embedded in my lecture notes. So that's kind of the way that I do it.
Great.
And that gets around these kinds of problems. My experience, as I mentioned earlier, I've got about 78 students in my seminars. For 3 hours, 1 lecturer. It's quite tough going because we're running, it's a workshop. It's an intensive workshop for 3 hours. All students are at a computer, as I mentioned earlier. Students are doing exercises at the computer, so it makes it quite a lot easier to tell them to go in and give response. What I have them do sometimes is I have them do an exercise with a stats calculation, for instance, and then report back on what their answer was. And I see the range of answers, and I also can identify where students are taking things to 15 decimal places when I only gave them the question to 2 decimal places and things like that, so we can discuss issues surrounding the problem rather than just the answer to the problem itself. I use mQlicker doing presentations to try to assess understanding, and student uptake varies from low to moderate. I seldom get 78 students out of 78 answering.
Why do you think that is?
I think my students are about 80% international students, and I suspect that there's some effect of that where students don't want to appear to be an idiot. They don't want to answer something incorrectly. I think some of it is that couldn't care less. They're just there. They just want to get the answers to the exam anyway, and so getting that interaction. So it's trying to break through those typical barriers that we have. I think I am done.
What we might do is I might
This thing doesn't work.
get it. Look from in there.
mQlicker is easy for me to use. Sometimes the session number does not show up on the question screen, as we've just seen, and that can be a little bit annoying. So I suggest the strategy of setting up the session in your office and getting the session key and embedding it in your lecture slides. It's a better way to go. Switching between PowerPoint and mQlicker can be tiresome, but that's overcome if you don't use mQlicker, overuse mQlicker. Students have no trouble with the interface, and I think most of you experienced that in the beginning. Once you were into the website, you just put the session key in.
Have you used it with mobile phones as students or just with computers?
The students have computers, so typically they've been working with their computers.
But in a lecture hall, does anyone use it with mobile phone?
Did anyone use it with a mobile phone
You
here?
just use it, it's fine.
No, I mean in the student cohort
No.
and their response.
You'll have to give us feedback on that. And it provides some interaction, but it's just another tool. Don't overuse it. Thank you, Cameron.